Today's presenters are Jason Fan, CEO and co-founder of Forma, and Josh Bersin, global industry analyst and founder of the Josh Bersin Academy. I'd like to hand it over to Jason.
Thank you for that informative introduction, Mike. Really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason, and along with Josh, will be your host and the guy for today's presentation. I wanted to quickly introduce ourselves a little bit before we jump into the fun discussion. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO at a company called Forma. And here at Forma, the mission statement is actually very simple. We want to give every employee the ability to access benefits programs that are actually meaningful based on individuals' needs. That sounds like a very simple statement. And of course, like benefits programs are there to support employees. So of course, that statement should be factual. But at the same time, it really is a hard goal to achieve, right? Designing a benefits package that works for every single employee in your organization is really, really hard to do. So what I'm hoping to share and bring to the table today is some trends that we're seeing in the market, some creative solutions that we have seen over the past couple of years working with our customers. And so I'm really excited to be here today and excited to have this conversation. And Josh, we'd love to pass the mic over to you for introduction.
Thank you, Jason. I met Jason in the early days, and the problem that Jason is focused on is a massive, massive topic, as many of you know. It touches rewards, it touches well-being, it touches retention, it touches productivity. So I'll let Jason talk more about it. What you're going to hear from me about is really the research we've done on the whole topic of benefits, rewards, well-being, and employee experience. So I'll talk a little bit about that when we get going. Thanks, Jason.
Sounds like a great plan. All right, let's jump right in. So quickly mention the agenda for today. I'm going to take the first couple of minutes giving you and giving the audience some understanding about my background and Forma's background, like what is the point of view that we're coming to the table with. And then we're going to go into some discussion around some recent market trends. This is where I pass the mic over to Josh for him to share some of the research findings that he and his team has conducted. We're going to come back and discuss actually a research project that our team conducted over the last couple of months. We want to share the results with everybody. There's some really interesting insights that we want to bring to the table. And towards the end, we're going to talk about an ROI case study called Business Value Assessment that can help you as total rewards, HR, and benefits professionals to think really deeply about how do we maximize every single dollar that gets invested into the benefits pool. Okay, so let's jump in. A little bit details and background about us. When we think about the big problem that Forma is hoping to solve is that the fact that the benefits package itself used to be a lot simpler, right? 20 to 30 years ago, a benefits package usually consists of a medical plan, dental vision plan, and then some form of retirement plan. It served as really people's basic income and health protection. And that benefits professionals used to do this is to design a package for as many people as possible in the organization, right? A package may be designed and optimized for 80% of the population, maybe 90%. If it's a really premium program, maybe it's designed and put together with 95% of the population in mind. But really rarely is it really for every single employee. It's really, really hard to achieve. But at the same time, the world that it looks at today, the world that we live in looks very, very different compared to before. Even just the last few years, we saw a black swan event like COVID, right? We saw societal changes like the overturn of Roe versus Wade. We saw economic changes like the turbulence that we're seeing in the market right as we speak. And then we also have to layer on top the tight labor market, the ever more diverse and multi-generational workforce that we have today. And for many of you, probably a global population that makes the complexity of putting together a benefits package that works for everybody an order of magnitude bigger, right? It's just really, really hard to put together a package that works for everybody. It's nearly impossible. And so with all those changes, as benefits professionals, total rewards professionals, our first instinct is when we see these changes, is we want to try to rush to the front lines and support employees, right? That's our natural calling. That's what we're here to do. Sometimes it's by adding another program, right, for our employees. Sometimes it's by finding another resource for the group. And sometimes it's from just buying from another vendor, right? So we're trying to put together as much support as we can around the employees. But this is not sustainable because we have limited budget and we're operating in a contract environment. If we keep doing this the same way, your job is going to get a lot harder. There's never an end to how many more things we can add that we can bring to the table, right? And so this is the core problem that we want to solve, right? We want to give every employee the ability to choose benefits that are meaningful to them, and you don't have to make that difficult choice for them, right? No matter their gender, their location, their age group, their career plans, their family plans, and all these factors that make individuals who they are. And for you as administrators, remove the need to choose which vendors to buy from. And we do that through a very customizable spending account. Okay, that is the core competency of Forma. And over the last couple of years, we've been very fortunate to be working with some amazing customers. Today, we work with over 200 of them for 420,000 total employees across over 100 countries, right? And so some of the results that we see are pretty stunning. Turns out that if you actually give employees choice, ability to choose benefits that are meaningful to them, they value the benefits a lot more. So every dollar you put in, the perceived value on the employee's eyes is further. Okay, we also see this reflected in the high engagement rate. Here are just some of the early cases that we see. I'm actually going to come back to this if I don't quickly flash in front of everybody. These are some of the use cases that we see on the lifestyle side, on the HRA side, on the pre-tax side. These are all the different type of programs that you can build into the Forma platform. Okay, so that was a little bit about us. Josh, I would love to really hear your take on some of the trends that you're also seeing around us. Right now, I recognize that there are two things that's converging really, really quickly and really dynamic. Turbulent economy, tight labor market. We'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing in the market and how do you see these trends converge? And I'll pass the screen share to you.
Okay, let me give you guys some things to think about here. And thank you, Jason. Like I said, I'm just really impressed what you guys have done. So it's a very obviously challenging time to figure out. So I'm going to give you sort of the big story that most of you are probably dealing with. And by the way, this is just to point you to a report that has a lot of this stuff written down if you want to download it and read it. The first is, of course, we are in an economic slowdown. Whether you like it or not, we've had near zero interest rates until the last 6 months. We've experienced inflation. There's been a war. There's been a pandemic. People have been home dealing with psychological, mental, and physical stress. And so most companies are in this transition point from not growing at the rate they thought they were going to grow before 6 to 9 months ago, but also seeing business opportunities in front of them. And one of the reasons that I think we are seeing this slowdown is that all of the money that got pumped into the economy from the pandemic is starting to get spent. And so savings rates are going down, credit card balances are going up. And if you see the earnings that are coming out from the consumer companies, you know, Nike and Target, just the last couple of weeks, they're slowing down just because there's less money in the economy. At the same time that's going on, you would expect that it would be easier to hire people, but no, it's not. It's actually harder to hire people than it's been in, you know, maybe a decade or more, for several reasons. One is a lot of people checked out of the labor market during the pandemic. Some of the people my age or older, baby boomers are retiring, and that was the largest cohort until the next, you know, sort of echo generation comes along. And there is a lot of government spending taking jobs. You know, there's $1 trillion or more that have just been allocated in the United States, and there's similar investments in Europe to build infrastructure, to deal with the semiconductor industry, other things. Those jobs are just barely about to be created. So the unemployment rate, which is at around 3.5, 3.6%, which is, you know, kind of, you know, very, very low, may stay low even if there's an economic slowdown. And it's even worse because people are having fewer children. Now there's a slight baby boom starting again, but if you look at most of the developed economies, US, UK, Germany, Japan, most of the Nordic countries, people have been postponing getting married, postponing having children, having fewer children. So there is an expected plateau and eventually in the next 10 years, shrinking population in a lot of these countries, which means, bottom line, that if you're not taking care of the people you have, you're kind of taking a risk. I mean, we just got off the phone yesterday with one of the largest, you know, 3 largest airlines in the United States, and they now have 7,000 jobs open for flight attendants and other professionals. They are creating a pilot training university to teach you how to become a pilot because there aren't enough people coming out of the military anymore or people from World War II to fly the planes. This is going on in healthcare, it's going on in financial services, it's going on in retail, it's going on in virtually every industry. And so all of these things have kind of collided at the time were trying to take care of people. Now, one of the reasons that what Forma is doing is so interesting and so important is there's something else going on in parallel, and that is transformation. And I don't want to bore you with a bunch of discussions about digital transformation, but if you look at what just happened over the last month with AI and OpenAI and the technology coming out of Google and other places, I can guarantee you that every company is rethinking what they're selling, how they're going to market, what their products do, how they work, etc. And when you interview CEOs, and this is a CEO survey from only about a month ago, about 60% of CEOs say that I want to spend more time on transforming the business, less time on executing. In other words, if we're not able to change and reskill and adapt and move people into this new thing we're trying to do, we're not going to be around in 10 years. And that is happening in the middle of this, economic slowdown. Now, I'm not here to sell a book, but I want to just talk to you a little bit about what I've learned over the years. I spent close to 7 or 8 years working on this book. It came out last fall. And what basically I learned from many years as an analyst is that ultimately all of these problems come down to people. In fact, I have this funny conversation I have with lots of CEOs that virtually every business problem that anybody ever brings up is a people problem. Turnover skills, execution, sales performance, marketing, whatever you say, it turns out to be a people problem. And many of these things that are written about in the book have to do with empowerment and flexibility and autonomy and essentially freedom for individuals to work the way and in the manner that they believe is best. Because what you find when you look at all the studies that have been done on employee engagement and retention and employment brand, ultimately, the thing that makes people happy at work is being able to control their environment. It's being able to do the work in the way that they want to do it with the support and aid from their manager and their team. And that goes for benefits too. And I think what you'll find out in some of the case studies we're going to talk about in a few minutes is what Forma has done is sort of unlocked this opportunity for your employees to custom design how they want their benefits to work for them to support the work that they're doing and the manner in which they live. And that's sort of a fundamental thing. And the way I like to think about it is we used to think that the way to create engagement was to pay people more money and to give them more and more and more. And, during the tech boom, as most of you who live in California remember, we gave people everything. We gave them free food. We gave them, commute allowances. We gave them unlimited vacation. I mean, I know companies that had open bars and, multiple computers. I mean, just virtually anything. Well, that's not really the right answer. The real right answer is to either design programs and let the employees design what's best for them so that they can optimize their work for you. And that's, the fundamental change. Now, just interestingly enough, when you look at, all of the things that make up an employee's experience, which we, often call the employee experience, there's a lot of things to tweak. And, we just did a study on this last year with a large tech company actually involved in this. And what we found is that all of these things are important. Every single one of these knobs will have an impact. The ones that have the most impact actually have to do with empowerment, belonging, mission, trust, and productivity. And when you think about the word productivity, which is the latest buzzword sweeping across business, productivity comes down to individuals feeling that they can get their job done without lots of distractions from you. And if I think about what many people do in HR is we try to design something because we think we know what somebody's going to need to get their job done better. The chances are we probably know a lot, but we don't know everything. So a lot of the things that have the most impact do have to do with empowerment and giving individuals the opportunity to manage their jobs the way that's best for them. It turns out when you look at the impact of all of these practices on companies, it's kind of a bell curve. if you read the book, and the book is really not about well-being and benefits in general, it's about a lot of other things as well. There's about 15% of companies that are very, very good at this. And by the way, some of the case studies you're going to hear about at the end here are companies that are on the right side of this. And these companies statistically outperform their peers. So I probably don't have to convince any of you of this, but thinking about these design issues on how you create a great experience will improve growth, profitability, and innovation in your company. And we've proven that through statistics. Now, as far as benefits in general, it's been really fascinating to me, after looking at this for so many years, how big this has become. And I think Jason kind of, described it. There's, dozens of new ideas being created every day on pre-tax options from the government, options from you in the area of financial well-being, physical, mental health, productivity tools, exercise, fitness, and so forth. It's about 32% of wages in the United States. It's trillions of dollars. So this is a massive amount of money. And what we found in a lot of the research that we've done, working with Forma and others, is that most companies have too much of this stuff. They have gone up this learning curve from, maybe we'll have an EAP, and maybe we'll have, a little bit of a reimbursement account for, maybe an exercise club. And then, well, maybe we'll give people an app to help them with, mindfulness and well-being. Maybe we need to do coaching, on and on and on. And it's grown in size, it's grown in complexity, and it's grown in perspective. You may think that benefits are there to curtail and reduce insurance costs, which they are, by the way. It's one of the reasons we give employees benefits, is so they don't get sick, they don't hurt themselves, they can sustain themselves at work, and not maybe create a big insurance cost. But it's also about performance. If you don't feel rested, if you don't feel aligned, if you don't feel healthy, if you don't feel supported at home, you're coming to work sort of, in some sense, crippled in a way. So this is accelerated, and what that means is that one of the things that we have to do with these programs like Forma is give people lots of options. And as you'll hear about from Jason, in one part of the world, in one part of the country, in one job, and another job, it's going to be different. Not everybody's going to want the same thing. And what you also find in a lot of these analyses, particularly the ones we've been doing, is we need to give people a sense of psychological safety, that not only do they have tools and benefits and programs to make work easier, but they feel they can speak up. They feel like they can voice their needs to somebody who can do something about it. And that's where Forma, gives you the opportunity of doing that. We did a study, by the way, of health and well-being about a year ago. And sure enough, what we found is that this is also a management issue. So, sort of outside of the offerings that Forma provides, your role in making sure that people are not overworked, that goals are not unachievable, that management is listening to people, and that you're giving them the opportunity to speak up, which obviously you need a flexible solution to provide. Those are as important as giving people benefits. So I don't think the benefits industry is shrinking by any means, but we're now realizing that this is basically a management issue as much as it is a benefits issue. The final thing I'll just touch on is sort of the issue of pay. Whether we like it or not, we're in an inflationary environment. We're probably going to be in inflation for a while yet. It may go on for another year. And, the amount of money we spend on base pay and benefits is going to keep going up. I don't know if you all saw, about a month ago, Home Depot basically made an announcement they were going to allocate $1 billion of additional cash to employee wages and benefits. I mean, that's a lot of money. They didn't do that because they thought it would be nice. They did it because they felt like they had to do it, and it was important to attract and retain the right people. And in a market where we have a shortage of labor, shortage of skills, lots of competition as companies grow, you're going to have to keep your budgets stable and growing as this happens. And so pay, which is usually the sister or brother of the benefits department, needs to keep up to date as well. Now, one more thing on pay, and then I'll turn it back over to Jason. One of the things we just published last month or last week actually is a bunch of studies that work on pay equity. And what you find is that, interestingly enough, level of pay is much less important than a sense of equality of pay. So as if you think about what you're doing with your benefits program, and a lot of companies have, tiered benefits, the executives get this, and then the midline managers get this, and the hourly people get that. That actually can hurt you in the long run, because when employees believe that the pay system is not fair, they question everything else going on around them, and their level of commitment declines. In fact, we actually found that pay equity is 13 times more predictive of business performance than pay level. So I would also encourage you to think about these benefits programs like the flexible program that you can get from Forma as a way to create a sense of fairness in the organization as well. So lots of things going on, Jason. I know I just sort of touched on it, but that's a little bit of an intro to where we are.
I appreciate those insights, Josh. Really, every
Sure.
time I hear you present, I find myself learning new things. And today, I think the big thing that stood out to me was this concept of more and bigger isn't necessarily better, right? But what is actually meaningful, what's actually going to move the needle, that us operating in the HR, total rewards, and benefits industry can do as part of the leaders in around the table, that's going to be a lot more and a lot more beneficial, right? And I think thematically, let me bring up the slides here for some visuals. And thematically, it actually goes pretty well in today's environment, because we're going through a lot of turbulence, and a lot of business leaders' mind, how do we make sure that the money that we're spending across the business, including pay and benefits, is going into meaningful places and is actually moving the needle for the business? That's going to be critical, right? And so this is a very interesting discussion that we want to bring to the table. In the next section, I actually wanted to propose, and Josh, thank you for teasing this up for me a couple of times during that section, a potential solution that's going to be one of the most versatile tools that you have in your toolkit. I want to introduce this concept of an LSA. It's an acronym that stands for Lifestyle Spending Account. Okay, so the potential, almost like a magic bullet that can help you solve a lot of these problems, looking about meeting people where they are, giving them what's meaningful. At the same time, making sure that the efficiency across the budget that you deploy is at the highest level possible. So a lot of the LSA program, which is one of the products that Forma as a business offers, this concept in the name might be new to some folks, but it actually is a very simple program in design. Think about it as a very customizable spending account with you as the employer defining where and how the employees can use the money, but we're empowering the employees to pick and choose where to allocate the dollars depending on who they are. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, the categories here that include could be really anything that you as the employer deems eligible. So you as an employer on a global scale for your entire employee base, we no longer have to design a benefits package for 80%, 90%. It could literally design a program for 100% of the employee population in a way that fits into your benefit strategy, but allow the employees, every individual, to pick what is meaningful to them. Right? For you as the employer, this replaces the need to buy from single solution providers. It removes virtually all of the administration involved in buying solutions one after the other. And the budget is actually being put to use to the maximum, right? For the employees, this concept is very simple. They can pick and choose benefits that are meaningful based on their own needs. And this could be use cases that we've seen in the past, including sort of general lifestyle allowance, sustainability related program, subsidies related to work anniversary, supporting new parents, health and wellness, tuition, student loans, spot bonus for rewards, caregiving for those with little ones at home, health check, charitable donation. The list goes on. And we typically tell people for the LSA program, if you can describe the scope of the program in words, it can probably be built, right? So gives you one of the, again, most versatile tools that you have in your toolkit. Another stunning research that we recently conducted was actually with Redford, part of Aon Consulting. And the goal of this project was to try and quantify the increase of value in an LSA, right? Because intuitively, if we're giving employees more choice and ability to choose based on their needs, I believe logically it probably will yield to a better value, right? But this study aims to achieve how much more will the employees value when they get the choice. The result was stunning. The Cohen-Jones study showed that in a pool of 20 plus different benefits categories evaluated, LSA came in second highest value program, just behind 401k, right? And the value increase is plus 53%, which means that for every dollar you invest into an LSA account, employees actually perceive it as $1.53, right? And in today's environment where efficiency is king, is the focus, this is, again, one of the best tools in your toolkit. Okay. And so then in the next section, what I wanted to hope to bring to the table is actually some results from our most recent research project. So some context. Forma Research is a team on our side dedicated to understanding the trends and the benchmarks of the benefit space. And we kicked off 2023 with a yearly benchmark. Do that every year. This year, we had over 250 respondents to the survey from folks over a wide variety of industries, employer sizes, and different roles responding to the survey. So we'll be publishing this full result later, and I'm very happy to share with everybody. But here's a preview with a couple very interesting insights I wanted to share. Okay, so first one is I promise this graph is not made up at all. They just naturally split into these three equal shares. The first one is remote and hybrid work is here to stay. Out of the 250 respondents, one-third, and one-third reported hybrid workforce, in-office workforce, and remote workforce. Okay, and Josh, I would love to actually hear some thoughts from you, because I know you've been tracking this for a couple of years already. How do you see this continue to evolve? Like, are more folks going to return to the office? What does that look like?
Yeah, I've been having this conversation with a lot of people. I mean, to me, this is a one-way trip. We've moved into the world of hybrid work. We're not going back. We all know that there are times when you need to get together face to face. There are certain strategic meetings and design sessions and company-wide meetings and social events that you do need to get together face to face. But we have to also, and I mean, usually CEOs have to remember this, that productivity has skyrocketed during the pandemic, and remote work has actually allowed people to get more work done in less time. Commute times reduced, the stress of commuting is reduced, all that wasted time of getting from place to place. I just think there's a little bit of misunderstanding on the part of top executives that, the economy's done really well during the pandemic. Now, there are new stresses created, and one of the reasons that benefits are more important is people work at home, oftentimes work more hours. They don't get as much exercise. They're stuck at their desks. They're on their computer all day. They don't have somebody to talk to. They get lonely. So we have to give them support in this new world. But I don't see hybrid work going away. I think it'll become more embedded into our culture, but I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate sharing that insight, Josh. And from my standpoint, I think a lot of the customers and the industry professionals that we're talking to, this will continue to evolve. It is absolutely here to stay, but the shape and form of it will likely continue to change, and it likely will take some more years before it stabilizes. I mean, even after 3 years that COVID happened, I think a lot of people are still trying to see, like, what is that sense of normalcy? It's just fascinating for us to observe in real time, for sure.
Jason, so, one more interesting point. So this 4-day work week experiment, if you guys have been reading about it, you would have thought it was a joke, right? We're going to pay people for 5 days. We're going to let them work 4 days. Well, I've talked to them a lot and talked to some of their participants. When you make work simpler and you reduce overhead at work, you can get just as much work done in 4 days as you can in 5 days. So this is a new era here. I mean, we're reinventing work before our eyes. So I think we have to kind of accept that things are going to become a little bit different going forward. And like I said, I think what you guys are doing at Forma is a piece of this transformation, is supporting it in many ways.
We believe it as well. I mean, there's just like super exciting time to be in this industry. A lot of changes and a lot of new things and new paradigms being created. I think it's also very important to say that part of the strategy for a lot of HR professionals should be like, how do we stay nimble, right? How do we stay having to retain the ability to continue to adapt, because things will continue to evolve, things will continue to change. So how do we adapt to those situations as they come forward? Really fascinating to see. Right? The second insight we noticed was also very interesting. More than half of the respondents in the survey reported that the overall benefits budget is either holding flat or shrinking in 2023. Right? But overwhelmingly, 88% of people are saying that core healthcare costs is rising. I'm actually a little bit surprised this number is not even higher, because core healthcare costs, kind of like the norm, it just goes up and up every year. What that means is that the budget to do benefits outside of core healthcare, which is also very important, is shrinking in a major way, right? And this correlates really well with the overall sentiment of, like, we need more efficiency, we need to do more with less, we need to get more mileage out of the budget that we put in. Okay. We also learned that the point solution fatigue is real. An average benefits package features 9 perks and wellness programs in some shape or form, right? Even not just outside of the other core benefits programs that we offer, that we bring to the table, 9 perks and wellness programs, and many of which are in low usage rates, right? This tells us that the consolidation of point solutions is going to be critical on the path to better efficiency. It's really hard to maintain a big portfolio of programs out there that people really use. That is just not the right way and not the most efficient way to get the most out of the budget that we put in, right? And in some instances, the administration of the program is also a challenging topic itself. Like, how do we actually just run the program? And here's a very interesting example I want to bring forward. Almost 2/3 of the survey respondents reported some form of work from home program, especially over the last handful of years, and a lot of the programs are going to continue. But almost all of the respondents are resorting to some form of manual workarounds to run, to administer, to keep the lights on for these programs, including just directing deposit to payroll, expense ticketing system that's going to put a lot of strain on the accounting team, or some of them are actually doing this manually, right? None of them are great methods, but we believe there's a better way of doing it. Okay, so Josh, we'll love to, you teased this up a little bit earlier as well. We recently collaborated actually on 2 customers that already work very closely with you, and we've been collaborating closely with Lululemon and Microsoft as 2 employers for quite a bit of time already. If I may sort of pose this question, like, what is the big learning for you? Like, what stood out to you when you collaborated with Lululemon and Microsoft to learn about their programs?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting back to what you were just saying, in both of these cases, these are very successful companies with highly engaged workforces, growing, hiring people, trying to retain them. They both found, as I think you do with most of your customers, that they were proliferating more and more benefits. It was getting more confusing, and they weren't sure which ones were moving the needle for who. And of course, as the companies become more global, you have unique needs in China versus the UK versus the US versus Seattle versus San Francisco and so forth. And the poor benefits team is trying to manage this, giant set of relationships with these different vendors, this very complex multinational workforce, and they want to move the needle. And, for these companies, I would suggest that all companies are talent constrained, but these companies are very talent constrained. If they can't personalize and localize these benefits, these poor HR people or benefits people are going to pull their hair out trying to figure out how to do it, to say nothing of the CFO breathing down their neck and saying, you want to buy what? So I think both of them found that, the uniqueness of the offering that they could get with Forma on a personal basis was just a huge, kind of unlocking of energy and creativity and power and, autonomy amongst their workforce. One of them found that the ROI of Forma was like 6 to 1. For every $1 they put into the benefits program, they convinced themselves they're saving $6 on other related insurance costs for health and well-being amongst their employees. And I don't think they even measured the impact on retention and engagement, because that's a little bit harder to quantify. So I think they're both just stellar examples of why this LSA idea is just a really an amazing, kind of innovation, really.
Yeah, appreciate that, Josh. And I
Sure.
think one of the interesting learnings from our side was the LSA concept itself. Of course, it's flexible for the employees by design, right? We're giving employees individually the ability to pick and choose, what's meaningful to them. But low key, what often gets sort of overlooked is the flexibility also provides and gives to the employer side. And you no longer have to lock yourselves into one point solution after the other and trying to deploy equitable sort of program design across the globe. That is extremely hard to do. And even after you put together, going through moving mountains and put together a program, it could be out of the trend because there's big changes happening in the society, right? It's really, really a tough job. And I actually saw this in one of the Q&A boxes, if I can tie in back to this. We're talking about two case studies here on the screen, Microsoft being in the software and technology industry, Lululemon in retail, but this really is for anybody in any industry where you have a benefits budget that you don't really know how to get the most out of, right, for an individual. The key here lies in how you design the scope of the program. For example, we got customers in manufacturing, we got customers in financial services, professional services, like all sorts of different industries. The way they design the scope of what is eligible under the program might be different because they have different strategy, they have different population, they have a different set of requirements they want to design for. But ultimately, there's a ton of flexibility for the employer side and for you to really design the right strategy and instill the right strategy into the mix. Okay, so yeah, Josh, you got anything to share?
I got a funny story about flexibility. Before the pandemic, when I was flying around doing speeches and whatever, I happened to go to Russia for something. It was long before all the war happened, and I met a company there that was an alcoholic spirits company. And basically a beverage company, and they had employees all over the world in distribution, manufacturing, marketing, sales, all that stuff. And they said, we were talking about well-being, and the head of HR or the head of benefits said to me, it sounds odd, but most of our Russian, remote employees are in Siberia, they're in remote locations. There's plenty of business out there, but they're working in trucks where they have alcoholism problems. So we needed a very, very serious alcoholism treatment program for those employees. So we don't have this problem in the cities. We don't have this problem in the United States. We don't have this problem in other countries. So, what are you going to do about this? I remember when I was at Deloitte and I worked with the woman who ran well-being and benefits at Deloitte, we discovered there were more than 90 benefits programs at Deloitte. Just in the Deloitte US business, forget about the global parts of Deloitte, which are slightly different. And I asked her, where do these come from? She said, well, I hate to tell you this, but somebody's using all of them. I don't know who, but somebody is. And they were managing that themselves. So I don't know, Jason, if you've been able to close Deloitte as a client, but they're definitely a possibility.
Yeah, that number is stunning, right? And this is also a story that I recently heard from one of our prospect calls. We were talking to a global conglomerate. They got over 200,000 employees, over 60 different countries. They recently conducted an audit, very similar, Josh, to the conversation you had with the lady at Deloitte. Just like how many solutions, how many programs are out there that has been introduced over the years? And look, because it's really hard to take something away once even just 1%, 0.5% of the employees are started using it. It kind of has to be out there. And the number, it's really, really hard to believe, even for me, was over 1,100 across 60 countries. I was like, oh my God. And they have a team of a little over 40 people just managing those vendor relationships, telling employees about the different programs. And Josh, I agree with you. There's probably some employee out there who's using everything.
Well, and a lot of companies have local benefits managers in each country that localize it deliberately, which creates more complexity when you try to administer it all. Yeah. So
it really is extremely complex. So you got trying to be equitable for everybody, but then that just makes the job so much more complex. The chances are like vast majority, 99.99% of the employees probably aren't even aware of what is floating out there.
Well, that was exactly what happened at Deloitte. It was so funny. I remember I had to do some benefit program I was looking for when I talked to her. I was just stunned. I said, how do I find the list of 90, whatever it was? And she said, well, I'm not even sure. It's somewhere on the portal.
Turns out to be a 30-page PDF file that we send out. And, a couple of employees who are really diligent and trying to get right will try to do everything. But I mean, it's not really not an easy job, but before we go into the Q&A, and I'm starting to see a couple of great questions coming in, so I want to move towards the Q&A section. I do have a couple of resources that I wanna share as a leave behind. There's actually an initiative that our team is running right now. It's called the Business Value Assessment, right? So our former research team has put together an ROI framework that really helps you evaluate the current value of your benefits package, how many programs are out there, how many countries you're in, how much are you spending, how much your employees are perceived the package. And our experts will actually run a consulting session with you. It's completely free. We would love to do that evaluation for you and try to understand the current state of your benefits package and help you look for ways to get more out of the same budget. And that's the key. We recognize it. It's very important in today's world to be able to bring to the business leaders, we are doing more with the same budget or potentially doing more with a slightly smaller budget. I think we can get there. And this exercise is designed to help you do exactly that, right? So scan the QR code. It's going to take you to a sign-up website. And this is what we're hoping to bring some additional resources to the table to help you really navigate a really complex situation in today's world. Okay. The last one. A few of our research reports and case studies were mentioned and quoted during this presentation. If anyone is looking to dig in further and really get into like what exactly has been done behind these reports, feel free. All of them are published on our website. The QR code is going to take you right there. We really want to get the words out there and share these resources with everybody. Okay, so here's what I wanted to do. I'm going to stop the screen share and I'm going to bring up the Q&A boxes and let's go through them one by one. A lot of good questions in here. Okay, so starting on the top, there were a couple of questions being answered by our team already, but here's a question. Maybe you already mentioned that. I'm curious if this account will be taxable benefit or not. And also, do you have any market data to share usually at what level of amount, in which countries? Thank you. Okay, so taxation is a very interesting topic. The answer here is depending on the country and depending on the categories that you decide to include under the scope of your program. I'll give you one example. Here at Forma, for our own employees, we have a Be Well program. It's designed to improve health and wellness and help people do professional development and all these things. A couple categories are taxable here in the US. There would be health and wellness, gym membership, meditation apps, and things of that nature. There are a couple categories that are going to be tax-free. Like, for example, if you use the funds to pay off student loans, if you use the funds to purchase anything that develops your professional career, those things, they're relevant tax revenue code that's going to actually be tax-free for both the employer and the employees. The way that you design and make these categories eligible under your program across different countries have different rules. They all will yield, ultimately, there's usually some form of tax savings behind these programs. And that's actually one of the unique advantages of a solution like Forma, because we actually help you build those taxation rules into the system. So whenever your employees have a transaction like that, we're going to basically sort everything out. We do the dirty laundry behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay. The second part of the question, benchmark data. I believe our team has actually shared a benchmark report. If not, I'll bring up this QR code. I may have inadvertently dropped it off this too quickly. We actually Forma Research publishes a yearly benchmark report exactly on that. Across which industries, what is the usual amount that we see? What are the countries, cost of living adjustment across countries? Do they roll over? Do they not roll over? And all these things. We publish these benchmark report. There's one for 2022. We're working on for 2023 already. So go to our website, download the report. It has all the good information in there. And so far, we got a little bit over 200 customers, 420,000 employees across over 100 countries. So the benchmark report is pretty comprehensive. Okay. Another question, what regulation, if any, allows for this? What are the tax implications of this program? Similar to the last one that we were just talking about, regulation, there are some certain tax revenue, internal revenue code that IRS has put out that allows for tax-free. And one of the value proposition of Forma is to help you identify those and make sure that we maximize tax savings. But a lot of categories that's not defined in the tax code, it would essentially be just the post-tax program. So we tax employees based on the actual amount that they use. Okay. Also something that we make sure that we help you stay compliant on. Okay. There's one additional question. I assume that 401k contributions can be put into an LSA due to all the regulations. There's some certain truth to it. Depending on how this is designed, there's of course testing and make sure that the compliance rules that we have to follow for 401k. Usually we will recommend looking at 401k as a program all by itself. And we will look at basically everything else. Those other plan solutions that maybe 2%, 3% of your employees use, we'll recommend looking at that budget pool to put them into, to lump them into an LSA. We give the employee the ability to choose how they want to allocate the funds. Okay, on the next one, what about performance? Both company and employee can be linked to the LSA. I think the way that I'm reading this question is tying company and employee performance into LSA. This is definitely doable. We see companies actually creating kind of like spot bonus programs, rewards programs, and we actually had one of the customers who doubled their LSA budget for a year because their company really overachieved in a certain year. So there's a lot of ways that you can design the program. So I would, to respond to this, I would say definitely yes, depending on how you want to put this program together. Again, super flexible from an employee's perspective, how you fund it, how you design the scope of the program, it's really all up to you.
You know, one of the other aspects that might have been asked in that question is what is the performance benefit of having the LSA?
Oh, I see.
I think that might have been what he was asking. I'm sure you have lots of stuff on that. And I was just going to say, not only is it a benefit for flexibility and productivity of people who you're currently working for you, but also it's an attraction tool in this, you know, tight labor market. So there's lots of ways to quantify the benefit of this. It's a really low cost compared to the cost of everything else you're doing to offer this kind of a program.
Yeah, appreciate that, Josh. I may have understood that question a little bit differently than was intended.
I was just trying to tell I couldn't tell what he was asking either.
It could have gone either way. So in the case we're talking about the performance of the program. This is actually exactly what the business value assessment evaluation is intended for, right? We're trying to help you pinpoint, going through the exercise, the framework that a former research team has put together, help you pinpoint the performance and the ROI on how your employees are perceiving your program today. Whereas if you put the different programs into LSA, what is the projected perceived value for employee base, right? Typically, depending on how your current programs are run, we see a positive ROI from anywhere from 50% to about 200%. And that's the variance is there because depending on how you're doing your program today, what is the budget pool, obviously that influences output. But typically we see really, really stunning increase in the value that we bring to the employees. Yeah, okay. On the next one, I like the idea of LSA, but this is cash, which finance to this point is unwilling to fund. Any tax benefit or ROI can this be, that can be shown. Wanted to make sure, again, insert this business value assessment. I absolutely recognize that finance will be very much unwilling to fund new things. That's kind of like the theme for this year. It will likely be the same thing for next year as well, because we don't really know how long we're going to be in this turbulent environment for. That is the key. I think that one of the key takeaways that I'm holding bring to the table is to put together an LSA program, it does not need net new budget. We do not want to have to put you in front of finance team and try to request for more budget and make a business case. The goal here, and this is true for roughly over 70% of the customers that we serve today, they did not request new budget. They simply move the budget that is lower performing. If you have a couple different programs floating out there, all with low usage rate, it's a great time to consolidate them into a pool of budget. It's the same pool of money that you're spending today already, but you can show the finance team that your employees are going to get that much more. From 5% engagement rate to 85% engagement rate, that is a stunning increase, right, in return on the same pool of budget. So if you can get finance to approve new budget, terrific. That's going to be a win for everybody. But even if you can't, there's a ton of value just to revisit the current program design, bring them into to Josh's point, transform it into the new world. Okay. On the next one, with format, how do you keep employees from being overwhelmed with all the choices they have for their LSA? Oh, I love that question. And this is one that me, along with our product team, is thinking really hard about. It's a great question because if you think about the traditional way of running benefits, that was no choice at all, right? It's basically we put together a couple of different things and we tell the employees, no matter if we got 1,000 or tens of thousands of them, here's the package. We chose it for you. Here's what you got. Versus now, if we swing too drastically over to the other side of the spectrum and just tell the employees, the world is yours, go out there, we're all adults, you're on your own. That also makes everybody feel nervous, right? How do we make sure that the employees are putting the money in the right places? That's a great question. There are two layers to this, the way that we think about it. The first one is when you're designing the LSA itself, you're limiting the scope, right? If I may rewind back a couple of slides, what you can do is you can limit the categories of expenses that your employees can use. And you can make it stricter from the beginning, relax it, the different programs, once you get more traction and once the employees are more familiar with the program. That is one very direct way you can influence how your employees use the program. The second way is some of the efforts that we are putting together. We recognize that Forma as the administrator for the program can also bring a lot to the table. One of the example here is we actually have a marketplace that bubbles up relevant solutions that the employees may find interesting in front of them. So we help them narrow in the scope. The second thing, which is pretty cool, is we're actually working on an AI engine that takes in a lot of factors that makes up individuals who they are, their age, their location, their past transaction data, and we're going to make recommendations on what might be relevant based on their needs, right? And fundamentally, this is how we believe this market is going to go, which is we're giving employees freedom, but at the same time, we're giving them timely and accurate recommendation so they can get the most out of the budget that we put forward. It's going to be a journey, but we're excited to be on that path. Okay. On the next one, if you give an employee an LSA, the benefits administrator still has to manage the various offerings, contracts, et cetera, behind the scenes. So how does this work for the benefits administrator? That's a great question. The answer is you actually don't have to, right? The way that it works is that at the onset of the program design, we work with you to decide, hey, what is the allowance? Really just two things. What is the allowance that we want to bring, the budget that we want to bring to the employees? And what is the scope of the program? Like all these categories, some of them are going to be a yes from you, some of them are going to be a no from you, depending on what aligns with your benefit strategy. That is it. How we fund the account, how we add the vendors to the marketplace, how we plug into payroll systems, how do we do funding flow, how do we do currency conversion cross-border, how do we manage the employee data? All those things, that dirty laundry, we take on. Like that's kind of our goal anyway, right? We want to make sure that virtually there's zero administration for you. That's the key. The key is to get you out of administering contracts, negotiating 3% cost increase year over year, trying to chase down 90 different contracts across the country. We don't want you to do that. We want you to focus on, hey, how do I think about taking care of my employees? How do we think about designing the scope of the program that in a way that is aligned to our organization strategy? That's what's valuable. We want to help you, give you more time to do that. Leave the dirty laundry to us. That's what we're here for. Okay, on the next one, please explain the taxation related to the LSA account in the US. We'll love to. It probably is a good topic for us to make a cup of tea and we can sit here for the next couple hours going through it. I'll give a higher level, more holistic answer, which is there are a handful of different rules in the Internal Revenue Code that we can take advantage of. Some of the more interesting ones would include caregiving will be a category, professional development will be a category, student loans repayment will be one. There are different ways that we can help you maximize tax savings. Outside of those categories, it will be essentially be a taxable event based on how much the employees are spending. Tactically, how do we bring to that table is we do have an onboarding team. If you actually do work with us, we'll help you look at the categories that you decide to turn on, which one to turn off, and we're going to help you decide the actual taxation rules behind the scenes. We never serve as the tax advisor in this case, but we're going to give you the right recommendation. We're also going to give you the right tools. So we plug in, make sure that all these categories have the right taxation rule behind it. And it usually gets fed into the core HR system, the core payroll system. And on an ongoing basis, it just runs. So once we implement it, you don't have to think about it twice. Okay. Next one, taxation and rollover taxation approach concerns. Does Forma ensure to no qualifying healthcare expenses approved? Yes, that's absolutely right. When anything that touches healthcare 213D and the Internal Revenue Code, that has to be lumped together in a group health plan via an HRA. That's a separate topic. HRA is also another product that we offer, but anytime there's touches 213D, qualified medical expenses, it has to be an HRA. So that is a separate route that we can absolutely love to work with you on, but an LSA cannot include qualifying healthcare expenses in the United States. That statement is right. Thank you for calling that out. Okay. The next one, do you have to choose a specific account to fund, such as gym membership, or can folks receive funds in a generic account and then allocate those funds to the lifestyle they want to invest for the month? The answer is the latter. You, as the employer, can actually decide as wide or as narrow a program wants to be, and you can create multiple programs. So let me give you an example here as well. A wide program would be, I'm going to use ourselves as another example here, actually Microsoft's case study. In case anybody's interested, I'm going to bring up the QR code again for those who are interested. There's a Lululemon and a Microsoft program. These are actually great examples. Microsoft's program was more holistic. It covers a lot of different wide ranges so that employees' physical health, mental health, financial health, and a lot of different categories are actually included in the program. So just a broad-based program. Whereas Lululemon actually focused more on physical health. Their program was called Sweaty Pursuits and is really designed to give employees to sign up for classes so employees can sport their Lululemon gear and be the brand ambassador while making sure that they keep themselves healthy. This is an amazing example on how a program could be tailored to the employer's brand, at the same time advance their strategy behind their benefits. Right? So it really be, and you can create multiple programs too. So it really is anything that you want it to be. Okay. Is there also flexibility of when you sign up, or are changes limited to open enrollment period? That's the beauty of an LSA. It could be anytime. We actually see customers launching the program off cycle so that it doesn't have to be an open enrollment yearly setting. We actually see customers, we actually actively encourage customers to evolve their program across time. Like LSA is customizable for a reason. Like there are big events happening in the world, the overturn of Roe versus Wade, international conflict between Ukraine and Russia. By all means, we want to partner with you and change up the program strategy so you're supporting employees the right way, just in time. You can change the program tomorrow if you wanted to. Of course, we have to have a complete communication strategy and we tell the employees about it and all that. But the key for the LSA is for you as an employer, there's also a ton of flexibility. Like this tool is here for you, enable you to support employees in the way that matters to them the most. Okay. How does the LSA pay out? Through payroll, gift card, separate debit card. In the former setting, we can either reimburse through payroll. We also issue a debit card like your FSA card, and actually FSA and HSA is also a type of program that we run in the ecosystem as well. So there's a reimbursement claim seizure that we can either reimburse through payroll, we can also reimburse through direct deposit, or we have the debit card issue that we can issue so employees don't even have to pay out of pocket, or we can actually have the marketplace, allowing the employees to actually place orders directly in the marketplace with discounts. Okay. I know we're right at time. We may not be able to get through the last couple. So, Mike, I would defer to you if we can perhaps doing some virtual Q&A afterward.
Yep, I could definitely go ahead and forward those questions over to you and your team. Thank you very much, Jason Fan, Josh Bersin, for sharing your knowledge and time with us. This playback of this webinar will be available for 90 days. Just simply log into your worldatwork.org profile, but please allow 24 hours for that playback to appear. And a reminder that we are going to email a short survey to you at the end of this event, which is coming up. We highly appreciate your feedback. I'm going to stop the recording now to share the HRCI and SHRM codes. Thank you again, Jason. Thank you, Josh. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciated the time, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Appreciate it.